Tonight, let us slow down for a moment and step away from the noise of the world. The endless scrolling, the constant pressure, the quiet anxiety that sits in the back of the mind. For a little while, none of that needs your attention. Just breathe slowly and allow your mind to rest here. This is a quiet place for reflection, a place where ancient wisdom meets the struggles of modern life. And tonight, we will explore simple life lessons inspired by the spirit of a man who lived with courage, discipline, and honesty. A writer who saw the beauty and pain of life with clear eyes. His name was Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway believed life should be lived with strength, with dignity, and with calm acceptance of whatever comes. His stories were not just about adventure or war. They were about the quiet battle every human being fights inside. The battle between fear and courage, between anger and patience, between weakness and character. In many ways, his view of life carried the same spirit that ancient philosophers spoke about thousands of years ago. Philosophers who believed that peace does not come from controlling the world, but from learning to control the mind. This philosophy is called Stoicism. Stoicism is simple, but very powerful. It teaches that some things are in our control, and many things are not. Our thoughts are in our control. Our reactions are in our control. Our actions are in our control. But the weather is not. Other people's opinions are not. Unexpected problems are not. Life itself moves in ways we cannot fully guide. The Stoics believed that suffering often begins when we try to control what cannot be controlled. When we fight reality instead of accepting it. When we attach our happiness to things that are unstable. Money, status, attention, approval from strangers. The Stoic path is different. It teaches calm strength, quiet discipline, and inner freedom. Three of the most well-known Stoic teachers were Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. They lived long before modern technology, before social media, before emails, notifications, and endless information. Yet their words speak directly to the struggles we feel today. Because human nature has not changed. People still feel fear. people still feel jealousy. People still compare their lives to others. People still chase approval. And people still search for peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is one of the most important ideas in Stoic wisdom. Many of our problems begin when we focus on what we cannot control. Imagine someone posting a photo online. They check the comments again and again. They watch the number of likes slowly increase. But then they see one negative comment. Just one. Suddenly, the whole day feels ruined. The mind becomes restless. Why did that person say that? What do people think of me? Did I embarrass myself? But look carefully at this situation. The comment is not in your control. The opinion of strangers is not in your control. The only thing in your control is how you respond. Do you let it disturb your peace? Or do you let it pass like a cloud moving across the sky? Stoicism teaches us that peace begins when we understand this difference. Another Stoic teacher, Seneca, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about how true this is. A person waits for a message from their boss. Minutes pass, then hours. The mind starts creating stories. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I will lose my job. But most of the time, nothing terrible actually happens. The mind simply creates fear. Stoicism teaches us to step back and observe these thoughts. Not to fight them, but not to believe them blindly either. Just observe them calmly. Like watching waves move across the ocean. Epictetus explained this idea beautifully when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Life will always bring unexpected moments. Plans fail. People disappoint us. Opportunities disappear. But our reaction can remain steady. And that steadiness becomes a quiet source of strength. This is the kind of strength that fascinated Hemingway. He admired people who stayed calm under pressure. People who faced difficulty without complaining. People who carried themselves with quiet dignity. In many of his stories, the hero is not someone who avoids hardship. The hero is someone who walks through hardship with courage. Someone who accepts pain without losing character. One of the most powerful ideas connected to this spirit is the Stoic belief in inner resilience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This means that obstacles are not always enemies. Sometimes they are teachers. Sometimes they show us strengths we never knew we had. Imagine someone who loses a job unexpectedly. At first, it feels like a disaster. Fear appears, doubt appears. But weeks later, that same person might discover a new direction in life, a better career, a new skill, a deeper understanding of themselves. What once looked like a barrier becomes a path. Stoicism teaches us to see life in this way, not as a series of unfair events, but as a training ground for character. Every challenge is an opportunity to practice patience. Every disappointment is an opportunity to practice acceptance. Every insult is an opportunity to practice self-control. When we understand this, life becomes less chaotic, less frightening, and strangely, more meaningful. Hemingway believed that a person should face life honestly, without illusions, without pretending that the world will always be kind, but also without bitterness. Just steady courage. This is the same spirit that Stoic philosophy teaches. Not optimism, not pessimism, but realism with strength. A calm acceptance of reality, combined with the determination to act with integrity. In today's world, this wisdom may be more valuable than ever. We live in a time of constant comparison. People compare their lives to perfect images online. They measure success by followers, views, and attention. But Stoicism reminds us that true success is much quieter. It is the ability to keep your mind steady, to remain kind, even when others are not, to remain calm when life becomes uncertain, to remain disciplined when distractions appear everywhere. Seneca once said something simple, but deeply powerful. He who is brave is free. Real freedom does not come from money or status. It comes from mastering the mind, from no longer being controlled by fear, anger, or the opinions of strangers. When a person learns this skill, they move through life differently. They speak more calmly. They react more slowly. They think more clearly. And they suffer less from the chaos around them. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world becomes still, this kind of reflection becomes easier. We can look honestly at our lives, our worries, our habits, our reactions, not with judgment, but with curiosity. And slowly, with patience, we begin to shape a stronger inner life. A life guided not by impulse, but by wisdom. Not by fear, but by courage. Not by noise, but by calm understanding. This journey is not about becoming perfect. Stoic philosophers never promised perfection. They only encouraged progress. Small improvements in the way we think. Small improvements in the way we respond to life. Day by day. Moment by moment. Over time, these small changes become powerful transformations. The mind becomes clearer. Emotions become steadier. And life begins to feel less like a storm and more like a quiet river flowing forward. As we continue this reflection together, tonight, we will explore more lessons inspired by this timeless wisdom. Lessons about patience, about resilience, about facing fear, and about living with quiet strength in a noisy world. So take another slow breath. Allow your thoughts to settle, and let the mind become calm. Because the journey into deeper wisdom is only just beginning. And sometimes, the most powerful lessons in life arrive not with noise, but with quiet understanding. Like a gentle voice in the night, reminding us that peace was always possible, and that strength has been inside us all along. When the mind becomes quiet, a deeper truth begins to appear. It is the quiet understanding that much of our suffering does not come from life itself, but from the way we resist it. From the way we fight the natural flow of events. From the way we hold tightly to expectations about how things should be. And when reality moves in a different direction, we feel frustration. We feel anger. We feel disappointment. But the Stoic thinkers gently remind us that life has never promised to follow our plans. It simply unfolds, sometimes calmly, sometimes unpredictably. And the true skill of living is learning to walk with that uncertainty without losing your inner balance. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This idea is simple, but very powerful. Acceptance is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is understanding reality clearly. When a storm arrives, a wise sailor does not shout at the wind. He adjusts the sails. In the same way, Stoicism teaches us to adjust our perspective when life changes direction. Imagine someone who spends years planning a perfect career path. They study hard. They work long hours. They sacrifice time and energy to reach a certain position. But one day, unexpected changes appear. The company restructures. The opportunity disappears. And suddenly, the future looks uncertain. Many people in that moment feel broken. They think their entire life plan has failed. But Stoic wisdom invites a different response. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" the Stoic asks, "What can I learn from this? What strength can I build here? What new direction might open because of this moment?" This shift in thinking is quiet, but life-changing. Another great Stoic teacher, Epictetus, explained this idea clearly when he said, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." This sentence contains a deep freedom. When we stop fighting what we cannot control, we suddenly gain energy to improve what we can control. Our effort, our attitude, our discipline, our honesty. In modern life, this lesson becomes especially important. Today, people are constantly exposed to information about the lives of others. A person opens their phone in the morning and immediately sees hundreds of images. People traveling, people celebrating success, people appearing happy and confident. But behind many of those images are struggles that cannot be seen. Fear, loneliness, doubt, financial pressure, just like everyone else. Yet, the mind compares itself to these images and whispers a painful thought. Maybe I am behind. Maybe I am not successful enough. Maybe my life is not exciting enough. This quiet comparison slowly steals peace. But Stoic wisdom reminds us that the path of life is not a competition. Each person walks their own road. Each person faces their own challenges. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others." This is a powerful instruction for the modern world. Instead of watching the lives of strangers, focus on shaping your own character. Become calmer. Become more patient. Become more honest. These quiet improvements matter far more than public approval. The writer, Hemingway, often admired individuals who lived with this kind of quiet strength. People who did not complain loudly about their struggles. People who simply faced them with dignity. In his view, true courage was not loud. It was quiet and steady. The Stoics believed the same thing. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." This means difficulty is not always a sign that life is unfair. Sometimes it is the process through which character grows stronger. Think about physical training for a moment. A person who lifts weights understands something important. Muscles grow only when resistance is present. Without resistance, there is no growth. The same principle exists in the mind. Patience grows when we face delays. Courage grows when we face fear. Discipline grows when we face temptation. Without these challenges, inner strength would never develop. Many people today try to escape all forms of discomfort. They avoid difficult conversations. They avoid silence. They avoid reflection. Instead, they fill every moment with distraction. Videos, messages, notifications, endless entertainment. But the Stoics believed silence was important, because in silence, the mind begins to understand itself. When distractions fade away, we notice our thoughts more clearly. Our fears, our habits, our patterns of reaction. And once we see them clearly, we gain the power to change them. Epictetus often reminded his students that the first step toward wisdom is awareness. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery does not mean suppressing emotions. It means understanding them. Seeing anger appear, without immediately acting on it. Seeing fear appear without allowing it to control every decision. Seeing desire appear without blindly following it. This calm observation slowly creates freedom. In modern relationships, this wisdom can transform the way we interact with others. Imagine a conversation between two people who are frustrated. One person says something careless. The other immediately reacts with anger. Voices rise. Emotions escalate. And soon both people regret what was said. But a Stoic pause changes everything. Instead of reacting instantly, one person takes a breath. They allow the emotion to pass through without acting on it. They respond calmly instead of aggressively. That single moment of self-control can protect an entire relationship. Marcus Aurelius practiced this idea constantly. He reminded himself each morning that difficult people would appear. Not because the world was cruel, but because humans are imperfect. And when we accept that reality, we stop being surprised by it. He wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." But he did not say this with anger. He said it with understanding. Because he believed these behaviors came from ignorance, not from evil intentions. This perspective creates patience. Instead of expecting perfection from others, we learn to expect humanity. And humanity includes mistakes. It includes flaws. It includes moments of weakness. When we remember this, forgiveness becomes easier, and the mind remains calm. Another powerful Stoic insight involves the idea of impermanence. Everything in life changes. Every situation evolves. Every emotion eventually fades. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of this simple truth. He wrote, "Time is a river, a violent current of events, glimpsed once and already carried past us." This reflection can bring deep peace. When we feel sadness, we remember it will pass. When we feel stress, we remember it will change. Even when we experience success, we remain humble because we understand it too will evolve. Nothing stays fixed forever. This awareness encourages gratitude. Instead of constantly chasing the next achievement, we begin to appreciate simple moments. A quiet evening, a meaningful conversation, a peaceful walk. These small experiences often contain more real happiness than the loud victories we chase. Hemingway himself often wrote about simple moments in nature. Fishing on a quiet river, watching the sunrise, sitting peacefully with a drink after a long day. These moments were not dramatic, but they were deeply alive. The Stoics understood the same truth. Peace rarely arrives through excitement. It arrives through clarity, through acceptance, through living in harmony with reality, rather than constantly fighting it. Seneca expressed this beautifully when he wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." Many people today live almost entirely in the future. They tell themselves they will be happy when something happens. When the promotion arrives, when the money increases, when the perfect relationship appears. But while waiting for those moments, they forget to live now. Stoicism gently guides us back to the present moment. Not because the future is unimportant, but because the present is the only place life actually happens. Right now, in this breath, in this quiet moment of reflection. And when we learn to live here, with calm awareness and steady character, life begins to feel lighter, less rushed, less chaotic, more meaningful. This quiet transformation does not happen instantly. It grows slowly through daily practice, through small moments of patience, through small moments of courage, through small moments of honest reflection. And as these moments accumulate, something remarkable begins to happen. The mind becomes stronger than circumstance, calmer than chaos, and freer than fear. And from that quiet strength, something deeper slowly begins to grow inside the mind. A calm understanding that life does not become peaceful when problems disappear, but when the mind learns how to face those problems without panic. This is one of the most powerful lessons hidden inside Stoic wisdom. Peace is not the absence of difficulty. Peace is the presence of inner stability. Many people spend years chasing a life where nothing goes wrong. They want perfect conditions, perfect relationships, perfect work environments, perfect emotional states. But life rarely follows that plan. Unexpected challenges appear without warning. Plans change. People change. Circumstances change. And if our happiness depends on perfect conditions, then peace becomes very fragile. This is why Stoic philosophers encouraged a different kind of strength. Strength that comes from within. Strength that remains steady even when the world becomes uncertain. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something simple but deeply important. You always own the option of having no opinion. At first, this idea sounds strange. But when we think carefully, it reveals an incredible freedom. Many situations become painful because we immediately judge them. We label them as terrible, unfair, unacceptable. But often the situation itself is neutral. It is our interpretation that creates suffering. Imagine someone receiving criticism at work. The moment they hear it, their mind reacts. They feel attacked, embarrassed, angry. They spend the rest of the day replaying the moment again and again. But another person might hear the same criticism and respond calmly. They ask themselves a simple question. Is there something useful here that can help me improve? If yes, they learn from it. If not, they let it pass. The event was the same. The reaction was different. And that difference changed the entire experience. This is the quiet power of perspective. The Stoics believed our thoughts act like lenses through which we see reality. When the lens is distorted by fear or pride, everything appears threatening. But when the lens becomes clear, we begin to see situations more honestly, without exaggeration, without unnecessary suffering. Another Stoic teacher, Epictetus, expressed this idea with great clarity when he said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." This single sentence explains so much about human anxiety. A delayed message can become a source of stress. A small mistake can become a source of shame. A stranger's opinion can become a source of insecurity. But these experiences only gain power when the mind gives them power. Once we understand this, we begin to reclaim control over our inner life. Instead of reacting automatically, we pause. We observe the thought. We question it gently. Is this thought true? Is it helpful? Or is it simply a habit of fear? Slowly, the mind learns to choose better interpretations. And with better interpretations comes greater peace. Seneca once wrote something that touches deeply on this idea. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about how often the mind creates pain before anything actually happens. Someone waits for an important interview before the meeting even begins. Their thoughts start racing. What if I fail? What if I embarrass myself? What if they reject me? The body becomes tense. The heart beats faster. Sleep becomes difficult the night before. But none of those fears have happened yet. They exist only in imagination. And imagination can sometimes become a powerful source of suffering. Stoicism teaches us to gently bring the mind back to reality, back to the present moment. Instead of imagining 10 possible disasters, focus only on the next small action. Prepare calmly. Speak honestly. Accept whatever result comes. When the mind lives this way, fear loses much of its power. Another important Stoic lesson involves the idea of reputation. Many people today feel trapped by the opinions of others. They worry about what people think. They measure their worth. Approval. A single negative comment online can feel deeply personal. A moment of public criticism can feel overwhelming. But Stoic wisdom invites us to see reputation differently. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, often that public praise is fragile. He wrote, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This reflection creates a sense of freedom. If opinions are only perspectives, then they do not define our value. They simply reflect the limited view of another mind. This does not mean we ignore feedback completely. Constructive criticism can be valuable. It can help us grow. But the Stoics remind us not to become prisoners of approval. Because the crowd often changes its opinion quickly. Today, someone may praise you. Tomorrow, they may criticize you. If your happiness depends on those shifting opinions, your peace will always remain unstable.